In that book, Sauss demonstrates that for much of the world's history, diseases have been understood as measurable, observable, physical phenomenon. As Rene Lerich, the founder of modern vascular surgery, put it, quote, if one wants to define disease, it must be dehumanized. In disease, when all is said and done, the least important thing is man. Now, by contrast, the field of psychiatry and psychology is focused entirely on the man. They're not looking at blood tests or CT scans or any objective metrics at all. Instead, psychiatrists are interested in your feelings and your thoughts, which are impossible to measure by any objective standard. As Sauss notes, quote, until the middle of the 19th century and beyond, illness meant a bodily disorder whose typical manifestation was an alteration of bodily structure, that is, a visible deformity, disease, or lesion, such as misshapen extremity, ulcerated skin, or a fracture or wound. Physicians distinguished diseases from non-diseases according to whether or not they could detect an abnormal change in the structure of a person's body. Now, this is one of those observations that when you hear it read out loud is genuinely shocking to most people. And most people had no idea that the idea of mental illness, as we understand it today, simply did not exist for basically the entirety of human history up till about the mid-1800s. Nobody placed any faith in psychoanalysis either. Certainly going back to ancient times, people recognized, conditions like depression and mania, but they weren't considered physical illnesses on par with physical ailments the way we do today until very recently. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, for example, when Lady Macbeth is going insane, the doctor basically throws up his hands and says she has to figure it out on her own. He says the patient must minister to himself. In other words, there's no role for a physician here. There's nothing for a doctor to do with this particular problem. Which doesn't mean the problem isn't real. It just means that it's not the kind of problem that a doctor can fix. Especially since the 90s, though, politicians in the United States have relentlessly pushed the exact opposite position. One after another, prominent politicians, particularly Democrats, have declared that mental illnesses are just like cancer or a broken limb. Bill Clinton said, quote, mental illness can be accurately diagnosed, successfully treated, just as physical illness. Michelle Obama said, quote, whether an illness affects your heart, your leg, or your brain, it's still an illness, and there should be no distinction. Joe Biden said, quote, addiction is a neurobiological disease, not a lifestyle choice. It's about time we start treating it as such, and on and on and on. It's the same message for the media and Hollywood and schools and everybody.